IBM is obviously a very well-known organisation for information technology. As an organisation, we've had long-standing commitment to employee health and well-being. It's not something new, but the particular thing that we've worked on that's a focus on the website here is on mental health. I think what the prompt was for the development of our app was an appetite in the organisation for a tool on mindfulness. So we had a positive leadership program, and part of that positive leadership program covered mindfulness or mindset, and the development of the app was sort of born out of that as a tool that people could use to embrace mindfulness. The app has a number of meditations, and they were in fact developed in-house by our organisational psychologists, and based on employee feedback we used to focus employees to support them to cope with moving from one interaction in the workplace to the other. So if they didn't have a positive experience in a work meeting or work context, the skills that they could embrace using the app could actually help them focus and cope to go to the next meeting with a customer or engagement that required them to be mentally challenged, perhaps negotiating with a customer. So I think the app has those meditations that people can again select. There's some that are 1 minute, some that are 15 minutes. So there's a range of meditations in the IBM Smiling Mind corporate app, yes. We met Smiling Mind, a non-for-profit organisation, and we looked at what we could do as an organisation with them, and obviously they had developed an app that was available to the general public. We wanted to develop our own app. And then we went down the process of having a pilot group and surveying that pilot group in terms of their support for that product. Well, I think we are obviously a digitally enabled workforce. We are an IT company, and I think the focus for us also is on supporting our employees to embrace and use support wherever and wherever they're working. So we have a very mobile workforce. At any given time, we probably only have half our workforce in our actual workplaces. They're out at customer sites, on aeroplanes, they're on, travelling to customers, meeting with customers. So we wanted a really transportable tool. So quite obviously a digital tool is going to be the one that's going to resonate most with our employees. To really understand the success of the IBM Smiling Mind corporate app, we were lucky enough to have the opportunity to have a group of employees, and I had a pilot group and a control group that we actually were then able to survey pre and post using the IBM Smiling Mind corporate app. And out of that we found, using a psychological measure, a perceived level of stress, that there was a statistically significant reduction in the perceived level of stress of that group. And really that was the evaluation. It was a trigger point for us to know that this was an evidence-based health program that was going to work. Well, I guess any health and wellbeing program needs to have the support of the leadership team, because I think if the leadership team aren't walking and talking that and living and breathing any program that you have in a work environment, it's not going to be as readily taken up by all of the employees. In this case, this IBM Smiling Mind corporate app came out of our positive leadership program. So it was our leaders who had the appetite for mindfulness, who then we took their cue and worked to develop the app for our employees. So yes, leadership is critically important. Workplace wellbeing shouldn't be seen as an add-on. I think too often we're considered to be like a separate function, a separate requirement. I think we've got to work very much as an integral part of our business, and for people to understand that we'll actually help them to improve and be more productive as employees and be happier employees, and that's good for the bottom line. We all know that that's going to be, we've got happy employees, we're going to have happy customers. In developing any program, there's always opportunities for improvement. I think for us as an organisation, we are such a diverse, we're not all in one place, so we do have to look at how we communicate. I think communication and marketing is key, and it can be a barrier because even though we are a digitally enabled workforce, there is sometimes a bit of fatigue about the amount of information we are receiving digitally. People still do respond with face-to-face interaction, but that's very challenging in an organisation that's so widespread. So that is a bit of a barrier, as how do we actually get to people to tell them about our IBM Smile My Mind corporate app. So that is definitely a barrier. And also in the future, when we continue to support the IBM Smile My Mind corporate app, how do we make it fresh? How do we change it so it's still relevant and new? So I guess the key barriers are communication and making sure that our app remains fresh and of interest and engaging. We now have a mindfulness community, so we have our own social media in IBM, and that has actually created a bit of a groundswell. So I think, again, embracing your existing tools in your organisation, so the social media has certainly helped to build the groundswell. I think that having key ambassadors always helps to build the groundswell, so champions I think is really important. Even though we're a large company, I think if you have somebody who's passionate in the organisation that is willing to drive it forward, and hopefully they're a passionate leader, I think that makes a big difference. They can talk to the leadership group and get their support. For this specific program, we're very excited because the IBM Smile My Mind corporate app is actually going global. It has actually been launched in the US, and we are working this year with Japan to make it available to our employees in Japan. It will obviously need to be translated for their promotion in Japan, and I think the global expansion is our focus, as well as obviously trying to keep an eye on Australia and New Zealand and making sure we continue to grow the use of the app in Australia. You know, mental health is a very important aspect of our health and wellbeing program in IBM, but we do obviously have other programs focusing on other aspects of health as an organisation globally. We work to the 5 aspects of health that the World Health Organisation has promoted, you know, physical, emotional, mental, financial and spiritual health.